Hi, everyone. It's Amy Valdivia, and this is the Divorce Podcast, the baby of the Divorce Lending Association. And I am very happy to share with you today that we have a special guest in the house. And this guest has an amazing story to share. She will impact the divorce community like no other, because this story is exactly why we do what we do. I have today Miss Lisa Johnson, the co-founder of Been There, Got Out. What an appropriate statement for the community that we serve. Welcome, Miss Lisa.
Thank you. What a welcome.
I'm so glad that you're here today because, like I told you, your story is a story that needs to be shared. And I want to make sure that our listeners know that they have people like you. They are not alone, and we are all here to support. With
Definitely.
that said, let's get started. First and foremost, who are you? How did you get here? Tell us about your business and let's go.
Okay, so like you said, so my name's Lisa. I'm the co-founder of Been There, Got Out. I also say I'm the female half, and I'm a state certified domestic violence advocate. My partner, Chris, who's also my life partner for 9 years, is the male half. He's a certified high conflict divorce coach. And together we help people dealing with getting out of toxic relationships, high conflict separations and divorce, custody battles, and co-parenting hell, so they have the chance of the best outcome in family court and beyond. And so we fill a lot of the gaps between what attorneys are not trained to do and what therapists don't understand. Our clients are the tiny percentage, which is like maybe 10% of divorces, but a huge number. We're dealing often with someone either with an addiction or domestic violence or a personality disorder. So lawyers are trained in logic, and logic does not apply to these cases because lawyers assume, as most of the world does, that when people are separating, they're going to do what's best for the kids and do what's fair. And that is not what our clients' exes care about. So these cases have to be approached differently. What therapists don't understand, general therapists, is the trauma caused by something called legal abuse, which is our specialty. And that's when the other side weaponizes the legal system to wear the other person down and bleed them dry financially. And these cases go on for years. They cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And people like myself, who's been doing it for 10 years now, often feel like they are the only ones who have this crazy life, that they must be part of the problem, because
Right.
people often think, oh, it takes two to tango, but no, it takes one person to create this kind of chaos often. And so they really require an enormous amount of support, and we'll get into that whole team approach and why it's necessary.
You know this firsthand because you went through it. If you'd be willing to share that story.
Always. Okay. So I was with my ex for 20 years. We were married for almost 18. And I never thought I would get a divorce. I thought we had a great life. I thought we were pretty good friends. Certainly there were some issues, but I just didn't ever imagine separating. My parents are still together for nearly 60 years. No one in my family was divorced. And then I discovered that he had been living a double life the entire time. And you can imagine there's all kinds of details with that. But I realized at some point that the marriage was over and that it was more painful to stay than to leave, even though the biggest fear I had was that I would be ruining my children's lives by breaking up this intact family. And I would do anything I could to keep us together no matter what. But that it still wasn't enough. So after a couple of years of planning my exit and trying to get him out, he finally got out. And then we started the legal process. And in my head, I thought, okay, this will take like a couple of months. It's been a couple of years. We know that it's over. I met my divorce attorney, and in the first 20 minutes of the consult, he said, yours is going to be one of the bad ones. And I was like, what? Why? Like, my ex he's a nice person. He's a good guy. He's a good dad. He's just done some bad things. And later, when we were writing our book, I interviewed my attorney about the red flags to tell if something is high conflict divorce, and maybe we'll get into that later.
Yes.
But anyway, he said yours is going to take a year at least. That like that in Connecticut, that's the max because they set trial date from a year after you file papers, which is a good thing. It's good to have that deadline. So it took the full year. I hadn't wanted to leave because I thought I don't have $10,000 for a divorce, and it ended up costing $100,000 and that full year. And I am paying back those loans still and probably will be forever. And then after the divorce was finalized, my lawyer, who was a wonderful person, said, your ex is not going to comply with court orders. You are not going to be able to continue to afford me. You're going to have to do it yourself, which is called pro se or self-representation. So I want you to start learning how to represent yourself now and establish a paper trail, which I did. And then a year and 9 months later, when I went back as a pro se or self-represented litigant, I was ready to go and I regained my strength. And then another several years in court. And now I've had, I always say like dozens, maybe 100 court appearances in the past few years in 2 states representing myself. I've been successful, but justice takes a very long time to be served in the legal system. And now it has been very nicely. And the wonderful cherry on top is that my case is published in the Connecticut Law Journal. And I am not an attorney, which makes it like almost unheard of. So I'm really proud of that. And then also during this time, I was advocating for something. I submitted live testimony for something called Jennifer's Law, which passed and made Connecticut the 3rd state to have expanded its legal definition of domestic violence to include coercive control. So that's all that invisible abuse that usually is not taken seriously. So now it's been codified in terms of Jennifer's Law. And that went into effect in October 2021. And I actually was able to use that to strengthen my own case with the judge who proceeded over Jennifer Dulos's case, which was just like crazy karma. And then my ex sued us in New York for $4 million in defamation in civil court because that was the day that he was ordered to finally pay the orders that were years old. We got that taken care of ourselves. And then I always say our first baby was born last year, our first book. And then now we're working on the second book, which has to deal with one of the biggest issues in our community, which is how to handle when your ex is trying to turn the kids against you in court and in life. So we are busy bees and very involved with our community.
Okay, let me clarify for the audience because there was so much in that. We have a divorce that took how many years?
The divorce took 1 year, but post-judgment, it's been, this is year 10, because 2013 we started, and now it's 2024.
Right.
And we just finished like trial and order. Like, there's so many hearings and things. So 2023 things really settled, but my daughter is still in college and he's still not cooperating, though he's doing much better since I got awesome court orders. But I'm going to be back to finish collecting because I feel like the least I could do is make someone comply with their financial obligations to our children.
And then there's divorce. And then there's, I should say, abuse. Oh my goodness. There, like I said, my head is reeling when I hear your
Sorry,
it's
overwhelming.
No, I've heard it before, and it's amazing to share it now in this context because the community that's listening needs to hear not only we talk about how long a divorce can take, but we talk about abuse and we talk about the services and we talk about the divorce team, and you hit all of that in what you do and what drives you to do what you do. So we're talking a 10-year divorce for all intents and purposes, even though we know it was finalized post-divorce. It's still a case that just keeps lingering. This is a legacy case, right?
This is we call this post-separation abuse. And we often say that once you get out of the physical day-to-day, your ex is limited to 3 ways to still get at you: money, kids, and the courts. So money and the courts go hand in hand, and then the kids last the longest.
And even in the marriage, we've talked in our community, the financial abuse and the control. So you may not necessarily be living under the same roof, even though it's post-divorce, that financial abuse can still linger in different ways. And we have to recognize that. It may not be physical as far as somebody hurting you or physically abusing you, but there are other ways to be abused. And you made a comment about legal abuse, using the legal system to continually come at you and take advantage of you financially. That's the way they get back at you. That's just another tactic
Yep.
in divorce. And you have this. And what's amazing to me is going back to now yet another facet that we talk about is the divorce team. Thank God you had the attorney you had who recognized and saw those red flags. So now this is where I want to talk about what those red flags are. Talked about the red flags because he knew right away there was going to be an end date where he cut you loose. He knew he was going to get paid for a certain period of time, but there was going to be a point where it was just going to be, now that was going to be abuse if he kept you going. Tell me, fast forward to all those years later, you interviewed him and he said these were the red flags.
Yes. And then we have, that's in our chapter of our book, but just a couple of them, like one of the main things is unaddressed addiction. When somebody is an addict, I'm not talking about people in recovery, but they're in a certain amount of denial and they don't have good judgment. So people who are addicts or have a mental illness, they're not thinking even in their own best interest. So they don't make good decisions about what needs to happen to move forward to get it done. Another thing is being in an abusive relationship. And there's a term called hoovering. It's the British word for vacuuming. So when you're in the cycle of abuse, often our exes make us believe that things are going to be okay and that we don't need a lawyer and let's slow it down. And so when a lawyer is dealing with a client who's in the midst of hoovering with a partner who's keeping them in, they can't,
Yeah.
they themselves cannot make a decision, and that stops the process. So it's a very difficult client. You can't move things forward when the client, him or herself, is, I'm not sure, maybe we might stay together, or they're saying this and I believe them, and they're not listening to the attorney. That can be very difficult. Financial abuse is another huge red flag. When they are hiding assets, they think they don't need to show financially undressed. One thing the court has to do, or mediators, we need to see what the money is so we can divide the assets and figure out child support and alimony or maintenance. But when somebody refuses, then that also holds up the process. And with that comes this sense of entitlement. I like to use the quote, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine too, where they feel just like everything is mine. So why should I have to show my stuff? Another one is anger that does not dissipate. And that is something we've seen. Like I told you, my ex, it was 8-9 years in where he filed for a $4 million lawsuit against us for defamation. It was just like, enough already.
The
Most
anger
people,
doesn't leave.
yeah, 4 to 6 months. It's like, all right, everybody's upset in the beginning, but these bills are piling up and we have to start taking care of our kids. Our clients and our own exes are the opposite. They keep ramping it up. It's like our clients, years go by and they're still getting like terrorist attacks through co-parenting apps and communication where it just doesn't stop. And they live with this constant sense of dread of they're going to bring me back to court again, or I'm going to have to bring them back to court because they're not complying with the order. And I'm just like in this constant state of fear of I'm going to get in trouble. What's going to happen? What's going to be taken from me? It's an awful way to live. And that's how, unfortunately, many people in these situations feel, because it's so isolating, because these are the divorces that are very different from others. And people like me who would join a divorce group, we feel horrible because other people are like, oh, now we're having holidays together. People are like, oh, they're going to get over it. No, our club, they
You
do
couldn't
not
get
get
there.
over it. And we also call our club the one where our attorneys all say, this is the craziest case I've ever had. Because they always say it.
And
Logical. Yep.
so you were checking off every box
Yes.
for your attorney.
Yeah. And he knew right away. My attorney was like very self-actualized. He ran like retreats for men. He knew, but he still had a really hard time because He couldn't deal with not just my ex, but the attorney. And often people like our clients' exes choose attorneys like themselves.
And
And
keep
that
it going.
also makes the process much harder because they contribute to the conflict, and that costs lots of money.
So you suggest in your particular case, A, you definitely have to take the step to get out. And B, you definitely need representation.
Yes, but I'm not saying that you need a litigator. The best thing to do
That's what I
is
wanted to
to
hear.
try to find a lawyer that is very emotionally astute, very good at conflict resolution, and will do everything they can to keep you out of court. Chris and I recently joined something called the Amicable Divorce Network. And it was crazy because we went to this conference in Nashville and it was like, okay, everyone is amicable and we're high conflict. But the reason we did it is because we want to meet professionals who can do what we call put a fence around legal abuse, like help us help our clients keep them out of court. Because when you're out of court, you have so much more
I,
power. Hopefully, sometimes you don't have any choice, clearly, speaking from experience, but you have so much more control. You can write a customized parenting plan. Like no judge is ever going to know the details and intricacies of your relationship better than you. So we want to meet, and I've met wonderful professionals who are very good at reducing conflict and learning how to work with people who have personality issues and egos and keeping the conflict as low as possible.
so you
So,
met Jody Bruns, our
oh,
founder.
no, I didn't.
She was there.
I don't think I did.
She was actually in charge of one of the panels. We're
No.
going to have to make sure that in
Yeah,
another episode that you
for
all connect for sure.
yes.
My goodness. So now that you've met all these other individuals, which you've been meeting all along,
Yeah.
tell me where you fit in the divorce team
Okay.
because it's truly important. People needed to hear the fact that you felt that it's necessary not to have a litigious person because the high conflict resolution specialist is the person that's really going to be the one to get you through all of this because it's not going to be a fill in the papers, get to court, and we're done. No, this is going to be a long, drawn out process that requires many hands on deck.
And the person, and what's really interesting is even if you have a high conflict ex, that doesn't mean that you're going to have a high conflict divorce. If they choose a good attorney and you have a great attorney and those attorneys can work together, your chances at staying out of court and getting this done quickly are so much better. So that's why it's important to have really good lawyer. So Chris and I often talk about, and we talk about this in the book too, the image of like you're the surface of a table. And so you need certain legs to keep you as stable as possible through this long dragged out process. So one is your lawyer, but your lawyer's job is just to translate your case into the law. That's it. That to be your ally and advocate, do the paperwork, everything else. But lawyers often are the closest people to us because they know the details of the case. So people tend to rely on their lawyers for emotional support, which they're not trained to do and not qualified to do. And it's super expensive. So then the other leg is friends and family. Now, a lot of our clients have been isolated from friends and families or come from toxic families of origin, so they don't have that. But let's say they do. Their friends and family, they love them, but they don't totally understand. So they'll be like, why did you stay so long? Why doesn't the judge just do that? And then you're dealing with not only your own emotions and frustration, but like your family's emotions and friends' frustrations. And also they sometimes do what's called bar stool counsel, which is to say, this is what I did, or this, and that can harm your case too, because they don't understand like that yours is really different. So that's two legs. Then the third leg is a therapist or domestic violence advocate. So their job is to help you heal and move forward. But the problem with them is, like I said, they often don't understand the way the family court system works. And so sometimes they'll give like really bad advice to our clients. Oh, just gray rock, just don't answer the person. If you do that when you're in a custody battle, you could lose custody. So therapists, like Chris and I have trained therapists often. We also train lawyers to be like, everybody has their own lane that they need to stay in and understand like, this is what they know and this is
Right.
what they don't know. And so that last piece, besides like financial professionals and like
Yes.
yourself, We say, like, Chris and I are high conflict divorce strategists. We fill in those gaps. Like, we understand, we don't give legal advice, we don't give therapeutic advice, but we really understand how family court works. And so we provide a lot of the clarity. We have awesome access to all kinds of resources. Our clients are often the neediest ones and they drive their attorneys crazy. So attorneys love us because they're like, please deal with them. We
Right.
teach them how to communicate and conflict resolution, how to present properly, how to be a lot more organized so they can use that attorney more efficiently. And that attorney's not like dealing with them all the time.
Right.
And the therapist is not just, I can't handle this legal, like, I don't understand legal stuff. We have a
Right.
number of attorneys who are our own clients. And one of them in particular stands out because I'm so glad I found you guys, because her case was 4 years old and she was like consumed, which is how it is in the middle of this. She's consumed. She's, now I have you guys so I can work with you on like the legal abuse stuff, which is driving me crazy. And I can focus on my own trauma with my therapist because I couldn't do that before.
So it's almost like you're like the tutor for the legal side.
Yeah,
You're the
we do the
person.
strategy and we do the
Yeah.
emotional support. And then we have this weekly legal abuse support group. So we have this community where everyone in it, we have men and women from all over the world. We mix our male and female clients, which I think is great. But everyone in it is dealing with the same personality so that we strategize and we support each other, but we also deal with those bigger issues of like, how are my kids going to be okay? How do I co-parent with a really difficult person? So they heal faster because they're in a group that really gets it, who also understands.
Right.
It's not like we're all just throwing out like our own situation.
And we often know that, and we say this in the Divorce Lending Association, the language you use can change everything in a divorce.
Yes.
And very much like you, we know our lane. We often talk about the fact that legal solutions may not equate to mortgage options. It's not your job, Mr. Attorney, to know how to structure a home loan. And it's
Right.
not my job to know how to structure a divorce. I can give suggestions and I can tell you about the language that you use for that marital settlement agreement and how it impacts my world and execution. But it's not necessarily spoon feeding you, putting words in your mouth, and then you're based off of what you're putting, you can impact whether or not I can do my job. So you get to be that liaison in between to say, okay, I'm picturing a divorcing homeowner not knowing how to communicate with their attorney. You could say, how about you answer the question in this manner in order to create the efficiency, that gap.
Yeah. I think resources like you are so important because many people have never done this before and they don't know their rights and they don't know anything. They don't know what questions to ask. And a home is like someone's biggest asset, usually
Right.
tons of money. And to not understand, like, you can really help them, again, use their attorney more efficiently and understand that there's other people, because an attorney can't be an expert in everything. Often people who share a business don't just need a divorce attorney, they need a business attorney. So like people who have real estate, they need their divorce attorney, but they should have information about their house and their real estate properties.
And vice versa, same about you. I may be a divorcing homeowner and I may be talking to my therapist, and my therapist says, oh no, you don't need to worry about this and don't worry about that. There's a fine line when you're actually giving me legal advice. I don't necessarily want to call the attorney every 5 minutes because every time I call, click, now that's billable time. I need somebody in between to help guide me, and that's where you fit in.
Right.
Now, as soon as, tell everybody who's listening, when do we pick up the phone and call you?
That's a great question. People can call us anytime. And we always say, like, our first question to people, not our first, but one of our questions early in a call with someone is, where are you in the process? And we have all kinds of names. We say, if you're one of our babies, like you're at the very beginning of the process, tend to be more overwhelmed because it's so scary and you're just starting, but you
Right.
have more power than at any other time because you haven't made any of those expensive mistakes yet. So that's like a great time, but most people have no idea that we exist at that point. People find us when they're in the middle. That's the most common. And they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm spending like hundreds of like
Right.
thousands of dollars and I'm not getting anywhere. I don't understand. And my lawyer's like not understand. And we give them a lot of clarity, like this is why your lawyer's doing that. Maybe this, that, and that. But we never want to go against their attorney because we all say we're pulling in the same direction. So we don't go, we're like, we try to figure out, like, we help them develop strategies with their lawyer. And then if they're post judgment, which is another super common thing, there's more litigation post divorce with an ex than during the divorce, if you can believe that. And so we do a lot with pro se clients that do go pro se, or connecting them with lawyers, but doing a lot with teaching them what they can do themselves because it is post judgment. They already have orders. So it's easier than the whole foundation of a case, depending on the issues. But a lot of it is education. Like my master's is in education. So everything we do comes from an educational perspective. But our hashtag is from puddle to ninja. So puddle is like anyone who feels, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. That's when a good time to call is. And then we will help get that person's voice out of your head and remind you of the truth and remind you of your orders and help you move forward. But these cases are so broad. There's so many issues, but we'll get your head back on straight again and figure out what strategies to use to move forward and find some peace eventually. Because like I said, these cases go on for years and you cannot put your life on hold.
No. How do you finance this?
I've saved over $1 million since going pro se.
So they actually can save a whole heck of a lot of money by doing this
Oh yeah.
on their own.
Or using limited scope resources and we have a lot of access to that, where it's like you're not doing the traditional, here's my $20,000 retainer and attorney goes save my life, but more of, I can figure out things that I can do to save money and use my attorney if I have an attorney only for certain things. And it is post judgment. So it's not the initial divorce and whatever. But yeah, we make them puddle to ninja. We make them warriors. It's you're gonna be okay.
And do they buy a package with you for sessions or for a flat rate, annual term? How does this work?
This is another great question because we're starting to change what we do. We usually do coaching sessions like one-to-one. It's Chris and I, sometimes it's just one of us, but we usually sell packs in like packs of 3 or 10. And then we also have this weekly legal abuse support group that's like a drop-in, but now we're making it more like a sample. And we just started this like membership program if they just want to do the group and some email check-ins. But now we're developing an online course, which is going to make it easy to access with a lot more people because we're running out of hours in the day. Like I said, this is like a small percentage, but tons of people all over the world, different laws, same issues. And so our calendars is really busy. But anybody can, at this point, we're still doing like a free discovery call. So if somebody just wants to go to our website, beentheregotout.com, there's a red button that says schedule a call, and we will meet with you on Zoom and just figure out what we call priorities, like ways we might be able to help you moving forward as we're getting the course done, which hopefully should be ready this summer, I hope.
I interviewed a couple therapists in the past, and one struck me, and since that interview, she's really helped me craft who I refer clients to and who is a great partner. She said, when you're looking at therapists or looking at helpers in general, emotional and well-being helpers, you have to think, where are they on their journey? Are they therapizing through their clients, or have they already pushed through? And that's something that you really want to look at. Where do you think, what are your thoughts about that?
Oh, absolutely. And I can happily say I'm well on the other side. And even though I'm still doing it, I've had so many triumphs. So we often talk about, when I'm doing like parenting summits, we'll talk about the importance of something called self-regulation. And I think about how when I was having natural childbirth with my first child, now this one nurse basically was like, look at me, breathe, do this. And she was so calm. And so I was able to be calm, even though I had been terrified. And that's a big part of what our role is. Like, we have to be calm. Chris and I have to be calm. And the reason we are calm is not only because we have each other and we found like true healthy love in midlife after all this craziness, but because we have so much experience and we ourselves have been successful. Chris just was very successful as a pro se in New York a couple of months ago. I didn't think he'd ever be able to do it, but he's really, learned to heal. And we've learned so much from just our business and working with hundreds and hundreds of clients and thousands in our community. So I just feel like comfortable. And, the thing that we have too is something I call radical empathy. Like when our clients are talking about how upset they are, and I'm like, I feel you. I still freak out if I see something from court, or even when I open the mailbox, I'll be like, oh, please, let's not have another thing. But
Yes.
I'm far enough along and I have loads of support. So being like someone who's moved to the other side, I think is helpful because I'm not in it. And some of the services that we offer in terms of helping people with communication, I say it's so easy for us because we're neutral. I don't care. I'm not part of it anymore,
Right.
but I'm very familiar with the dynamic, but it hasn't affected me, for a long time.
Thank you for clarifying that for the listeners. I need to ask the follow-up question to that is, you recognize your part in the divorce team, you recognize how strong a divorce team, how necessary that team is, and your table analogy and the listeners out there. What would you say? What's that little bit of advice, that one bit, that nugget for someone who has the deer in headlights look? Oh my gosh,
Yeah, one of the
divorce is
babies.
here. What do I do? I'm
Yeah.
a baby.
Okay.
Get, get them started.
Yeah. I remember being in that place for a couple of years before actually getting a physical separation from my ex. And I kept thinking, I will do anything to keep this marriage together. But walking around with it felt like a physical pit of pain in my stomach and just wishing and not being able to imagine that I would ever feel better. It was so awful. And I was so terrified. And I couldn't imagine like what was going to happen to my kids and what was going to happen to me, being so scared to finally take that leap. But when I made the decision, like, I'm done. It was like a cloud started lifting. And that was before the post separation abuse, but still going along this journey for these past few years, even though it was really scary in the beginning, you cannot imagine the amount of opportunities you have for triumphs along the way. Like you cannot imagine the joy that you will feel as you move towards the other side and the opportunities. Like who would have thought that I would have been able to turn my mess into my message and have like then met the love of my life, have this amazing career, my teaching career, which when I taught high school English during the court process, every time I would start thinking, okay, it's settling down, I'm going to start interviewing and going back to teaching, which I had taken off for years because of my son and my daughter, that I couldn't do it because I'd have to go back to court. But then it ended up working out. So now instead of teaching at some high school, I'm teaching on a global level. And just to have something like a career that is so rewarding and to feel like we're changing the world, like we're helping like stop certain cycles of violence and intergenerational trauma, and to see clients every day like moving along and say, look at the progress you're making, and just the ripple effects that has is just, it's so rewarding. I love what we do. I'm a total workaholic. So is Chris. And also to have a business with my partner that's so
Yes.
creative. So
Yes.
I always say we just love what we do. We only deal with really high conflict cases, but we love what we do because we see such changes in people. Like
That's
always, we always see it if they stick with it. And like I think I mentioned to you, one of our clients is going to law school. She was pro se. She was having bottles thrown at her face. She's my ex hasn't paid me child support in years, but I can't afford a lawyer. And she was a special ed teacher in California. And we're like, why don't you try going pro se? Like you're organized. Why
yeah.
not? You have nothing to lose except a little bit of time. She did it. She kicked, but the judge was so impressed with her that he said, Ms. blah, 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 can I have your binder? Because I'm going to use it. And then she went back 2 more times as a pro se and got restraining orders for herself and her kids. She's since met her own love of her life. And she's an Indigenous Native American woman. There's only 2% of attorneys like her in our country. And to see that, and now she's in law school. She's just finishing her second semester. We got to meet her in person because she came to one of our book launch parties in California. So things, and she's not the only one, but things like that, it's just, this is why we're here.
And not to mention published in the Connecticut Law
Oh
Journal.
yeah,
that little thing that started
right.
it all.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
your case,
amazing.
it's what you did. How amazing is this? You're completely impacting. So you just shared, my next question was truly, tell me about that one case, that most memorable case. Is it our Native American friend, or
It's
is
our
it
Native American friend, but like that's the one because it's so extreme. Like this is happening, and now she's in law school and she's going to become like a trauma-informed attorney, and she started this nonprofit already, and blah blah blah. But we've had so many cases like that, and it's not just with women; it's with men too. It's mostly people like getting their voices back. Like for example, like something that stands out. As I said, we mix our male and female clients together in this legal abuse support group. And I think it's the only group like it in the world. I remember starting it 3 years ago because I was thinking, I need something like this. I'm going to start something like this. And at one point, just a couple of weeks ago, one of our male clients was talking about how they have elementary school kids. And he's like, when I'm on the playground with the kids, my ex will come up to me and I get so scared. But I feel like everyone's going to be looking at me because I'm a man and she's a woman, but I'm afraid of her, and they're going to think, what if I'm the one who's the villain? And so I don't know what to do. Does anyone have any ideas? And one of our female clients was like, I know what to do. And she said, what you need to think about is control your body and your voice, because a lot of us have lost our voices in these relationships. So she said, what you do is you hold your hands up like this and you say, this is not the place, or now is not the time, and say it really loudly, because this way, when people look, they'll look at her and be like, why is she bothering him? And he was like, that's really great. And so our female clients, yep, I always practice this in the car and I've used it. And so the guy was like, I'm going to try that. And I thought, I love it. I love it that there's a woman helping a man stand up for himself, because often men are not taken seriously and they don't have places to talk about it. So I love our community, and I love that we have so many. I always say we've got a lot of really professional clients, and there's so much shame associated with this kind of abuse that a lot of them don't want to talk about it because they're so successful in other areas of their lives. And when they tell their friends, people will say, oh, you of all people, like I thought you were smarter than that, which is really hurtful. And I know they don't mean it. So being in a group like that with other like professionals and anyone who are super kind and empathic, it's so important to have a community of support that can share and at the same time develop empathy for each other and understand that abuse is not a gender issue. To us, it's a human issue, and to learn from each other and help each other get through it.
And men really do process differently than women. Yeah, I can see that. And women, especially if you're a professional who is just been very successful, it's very difficult to turn and say, oh my gosh, now I have a problem and I need help, and seek out that advice, especially in this arena. Okay, so now that we've learned all about you, and I'm absolutely positive that you will have many listeners wanting to reach out to you. Where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you and figure out which package they need to be part of or participate with your programs?
Okay, so super easy. We're everywhere. If you just type Been There, Got Out, like you'll find us. So if Been There, Got Out, we have the book on Amazon. This is like the cheapest thing you can get. And that gives like an overview, and that's really helpful. People who read our book, or when they come to us, they're like, I already know you guys, I already know what you're about. And they often know what it is that they need. But we're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, X, Pinterest.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn, like everywhere. We do tons of free content. I do generally 2 live interviews a week. We have a podcast. Like I said, we have YouTube channel. And so you can get all kinds of information from that. And then if you want to go to our website, beentheregotout.com, just click that red button to schedule the free discovery call, which is a Zoom meeting with Chris and I answer everybody. Like it's just the two of us, and I answer like all the comments and all the stuff. Right now, it's getting a little crazy busy, but as of now, like you will meet with just us. We don't have a team of people. It's just us.
Do you ever see yourself growing that team?
I don't want to give up control of my content because the writer in me in the English, I want to create my own I don't want AI doing it for me. Like I want to do everything myself. So one of my challenges is like delegating and figuring out
But
who.
that's fantastic to hear because people need to know that they need to know who they're really working with. Many times they they hear the commercial, they see the person on the podcast, they they think, oh my goodness, that's the person I'm going to work with. And then they show up or they make the phone call and they never contact that person.
No, it's us. It's me that writes back to you. It's
Very
us
good.
that meet with you. It's still us as of now,
That's what
2020.
I say. Those typos are me because I'm just moving too fast through that
Yeah.
email and what have you. So that is great to hear that they actually are communicating with you.
Yes.
Before I let you go, been there, got out. However, is there one final thought you'd like to leave with everybody today?
Like I started saying before, life is so much better on the other side. So just know that it is so much better. Like it is a terrifying decision to end a marriage. Nobody wants to end a marriage. You are not a failure. And you think that you're the only one dealing with crazy. Like you cannot imagine how many other people are going through it. And when you start talking about it with other people, the weight lifts off you. And that's how
Mhm.
you're going to start healing and moving forward, is to finally start talking about it. Keep in mind, it takes an average of 7 to 9 times to get out of an abusive relationship. So when people are telling me, oh, I was so stupid, I should have known, like we say, be quiet. Like that is not true. Hindsight is always 2020. We're all human. Those of us that get involved with manipulators, we always tell our people, like, these people have been practicing this for a long time. It's not that you were foolish. It's that you are one of what we call the shining stars. Like you are, our clients are all like the most wonderful, kind, smart, responsible, intelligent, creative, beautiful human beings. And that's also why I love our job. And the reason that they were victims or targets is because they made that other person look good. So don't ever feel like you were stupid or you should have known better. It's because you're so amazing that this happened to you, and that there is help out there, and there's other people just like you, and you have this whole beautiful life ahead of you. And instead of thinking, I'm never going to trust again, think, this person already took so much from me. Why should I let them steal my future as well? Don't
Wow,
let it happen.
that's beautiful. 7 to 9 times. That's something that I hope everybody heard. And then there's life after the fact. They don't have to let go of all of their power. They
Yeah.
can.
I never thought I thought just dating, I was like, and then 9 years later, I've been with my partner and I've never been happier. I didn't think people like that existed because of the dynamic of my relationship. I thought this is what marriage is. Marriage is hard. It's part of
Right.
it. No, it's not. It's not that it's always like rainbows and unicorns. When you get out of these relationships, you also become so much more grateful. Even just being on your own, it's nothing is as lonely as being in a relationship that's unhealthy. You're better off on your own, and there's all
Changing
kinds
your
of,
own light bulb. Yeah, this is fantastic. And I hope the listeners are really honing in on so much of the help that you can give them. And I'm sure that for that one listener that's out there thinking, this could be the time, or maybe this is who I need to reach out to, been there, got
yes.
out.com or anywhere on social media, you can find them. And Lisa and Chris are there, open
Yeah.
arms to help
Yes,
you.
and we have a huge community of people the same. You will make friends, you will make close friends.
I truly appreciate this time. Thank you so very much for spending all of this time with me today. And I'm so glad that we were finally able to put this on the books.
Yeah, my
And
pleasure.
I'm excited to have you be part of our community as well.
Thank you. Me too.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.